there with impunity.
Well, for more perspective on the volatile situation, let's cross live now to David Swanson, a peace activist and author of War is a Lie. David, thank you very much for being with us. Let's get right to it. This recent attack has once again drawn the attention to the issue of civilian casualties. This is war, though. Is this justifiable on any level?
Well, this is an illegal war, as all wars are. It was not authorized by the United Nations, although Americans like to believe it was, in contrast to the Iraq War, which they believe wasn't, accurately enough. But this, is not an exception. This is not a mistake. After over a decade of this story appearing over and over and over again, it's just unbelievable for anyone to suggest that this is some kind of unique event in the course of this war. But sadly, I'm not sure U.S. attention has been drawn to this. I mean, even the news articles about this strike, which killed a greater number of people, are dominated by paragraphs talking about another strike that killed Americans, and in particular, one woman who was a State Department employee who had met John Kerry, the Secretary of State. And the U.S. deaths, of course, are always smaller numbers, but they dominate the coverage. Americans are not aware of the extent to which this war is essentially a one-sided slaughter of helpless people who meant us no ill and has been for over a decade. Now, we don't do that over here.
Now, you mentioned this separate attack where a suicide bomber attacked a U.S. convoy, killing 5 Americans. Will the NATO withdrawal in 2014 put an end to such attacks? And is this going to make anything more stable?
Well, the other thing that takes Americans' outrage away from this war is the pretense that it's ending. All of the news stories about these 2 different attacks talk about the waning days of the war, which is still scheduled to continue until at least the end of 2014. That is longer than most wars have taken from beginning to end, and we call it ending. And here, as you were just discussing, the debate going on is how many U.S. troops will stay beyond that forever. Of course, if they can't get immunity from legal prosecution for crimes, as was the case in Iraq, maybe they won't stay. But the idea that they should be staying until the end of 2014 and that we should just accept that is sort of built into all the news coverage in the United States. And it's actually rather outrageous because there's been no evidence put forward that there's any sort of progress or any sort of good being done. In fact, Karzai is exactly right that these strikes are counterproductive and he ought to resign.
Well, Karzai, you mentioned he ought to resign. How much power does he actually have? He has said he's forbidden strikes in populated areas. This has continued. I mean, how stable is the Afghan government? Can we expect even a reaction from them?
Well, I don't think he's ever had significant control over the entire nation. I don't know that anyone has. He is widely seen as an illegitimate, unelected president and as a puppet government, and to a great extent he is. But he has the power to resign in protest. He has the power to say, I have instructed NATO and the United States time and again to stop murdering civilians. They will not stop. I refuse to be part of a government that is aligned with their occupation. When the occupation ends, I will run for office in an independent Afghan election. That is what he ought to do if he means what he's saying.
All right. Appreciate your thoughts on the subject. David Swanson, peace activist and author of War is a Lie. Thank you very much for being with us. Always interesting to hear your thoughts.
Thank you.